Would you like to experience success in every area of your life, like financially, personally, um, spiritually, like having meaningful relationships, overall mental well-being? Like, think about that. So listen up today, because we're joined by Liam Naden, who will be giving you the tools and strategies so that you can do exactly that by activating your brain's natural success mechanism. So, as Liam will show you, true success only happens when you give up the struggle and let yourself off the hook. So, you definitely don't want to miss this episode. I'm awesome Angie Engstrom, honoring the awesomeness in you.
And I'm Gira Edgard. And once again, such a big welcome to you, Liam. We are so thrilled to have you here on the show. And personally, I'm looking forward to diving into the brain. I'm actually a psychologist, so I just love talking about the brain. So a big welcome.
Thanks, Angie and Gita. It's great to be here, and thanks very much for having me.
You're welcome. Now, for those of you who don't know Liam, let me just do a short bio for him. Liam has a lot of roles actually. He's a speaker, he's an author, he's a researcher, and he's also a pioneering coach who uniquely integrates cutting-edge neuroscience, psychology, and practical strategies to help people unlock their true potential, overcome challenges, achieve goals, and live a deeply balanced, purpose-driven life. Now, Liam is also the creator of a process which gets the four parts of the brain working the way they should, thereby bringing you the success you should have. Because, as Liam puts it, your problems aren't your fault, they're simply the result of using your brain the wrong way. I can't wait to hear about this. So, once again, a big welcome, Liam. We're so happy to have you.
Yes,
I'm delighted.
Liam, welcome to Momentum Maker Podcast. Yay.
Thank you. Thank
Yes,
you.
yes, yes. So that was our introduction for you. Give us your 10-second version of, in your words, what is your business?
In 10 seconds, I really help entrepreneurs and business leaders and anybody who's really seeking success in their life to understand that you can have it all. You can have balance and fulfillment in every area of your life. And all you need to do that is to learn how to be biologically in tune with who you really are, which sounds a little bit complicated, but we'll talk about it, I'm sure. But it's really about when you discover how we're designed naturally, you will find natural balance and really achieve all of your goals in every area of your life so that you can enjoy your life, which is the entrepreneurial curse, isn't it? We've always got problems to deal with.
So
Yeah.
true. So true. So in your professional opinion, because everyone has their own version of this answer here, what's your definition of success?
I love this question because I don't have a definition. The only definition I can give you is what every biological scientist and every spiritual teacher throughout history has said that the definition of success is. So to me, if they all say the same thing, it must be the truth, and it must be that there's only one definition of success. And the true definition of success that they all say is feeling happy right now. That's biological success, it's spiritual, emotional, and mental success. That is success. Everything else we think is success is simply what we think will make us happy right now. So whether we think it's having a great business or being really fulfilled and strong and having a skill in our life or having a great relationship or being good at anything, it's all because we think that's going to make us happy. So that is the end goal, and that is what success really is.
I love that. I'm glad I asked that
Yeah.
question. Woo!
Yeah.
Powerful. I love that answer. So tell us what inspired you to get started helping people activate their brain's natural success mechanism. How did you start with all this?
Well, it was a bit by accident, and really it was the result of like so many things that define our lives, a sort of transformative moment, if you like. Because the thing was, I had no intention of either learning about any of this stuff or certainly sharing it with other people. So for most of my life, if you like, I was a really successful, driven entrepreneur. You know, I've had 18 different businesses in my life at last count. And I was always studying success in terms of going to seminars, workshops, reading all sorts of books. I had a great library of personal development, spirituality, all of those things. And I was always learning different techniques, and I became really successful. I became a millionaire and was doing pretty well, but I did have lots of stress and problems. And I thought, well, that's just the way success is. If you have stress and problems, that's part of being successful. You have to learn to deal with it. You have to learn to overcome your challenges. But really, everything changed for me a few years ago. And I remember the moment. It was a moment so clearly. I was just putting the finishing touches on my dream home that I was building. And it was, everything that I'd wanted in a home, beautiful, in a beautiful area in New Zealand. And I even built my own music room because I was a musician at university. And I remember this day going into my music room and sitting down and looking out, and we had wonderful glass windows that looked right up over the mountains, and we had horses in the paddock in front. And I was thinking, I've reached all my dreams. I've made it. I've achieved what I really want. This is my dream life. But instead of feeling amazingly grateful and feeling really satisfied, I felt absolutely terrible. I was so stressed, so unhappy. I was just shaking with tension and stress and anxiety. And I just had a row with my wife, a really, really bad argument. And there were problems in my life. And I remember sitting down and thinking, is this really what it's all about? I've worked all my life to achieve this. I've actually achieved my goals. I had them all because I was very good at writing down all my goals and having lists and strategies and plans and to-do lists and things. I thought, I've reached all my goals, but I don't want this. This is horrible. What have I done wrong? How could this happen when I've done it, but I feel so incredibly bad? And I said to myself, or a voice whispered to me, maybe it would be better to lose everything than lose your soul, because this is what's happening to you. You're losing your soul. Your life force is draining out of you here. And I thought, why is this? How can this be? And I said, I would be prepared to give everything up, lose the lot, if it meant I could get my soul back, which is what I really want. I want to feel good, and I didn't. Well, as the story goes, you have to be careful what you wish for or what you think, because it was literally within 2 months that I did lose everything that I had. I had 3 businesses. They all collapsed. The house went, the marriage went, everything went, and I ended up having to move in with my elderly mother and sleep on the sofa in the living room of her small apartment. And that's a big come down from a nice, comfortable bed in a mansion, which is what it was. And when I said I would be prepared to lose everything, I didn't know what losing everything really is, because it's not just losing what you have in terms of possessions. It's almost you lose your identity and you lose the feeling of anything that you can hold on to or any awareness of who you really are. It just all becomes a great big confusing mess. But as I was lying on my mother's sofa, there were 2 questions that kept coming into my mind. And one was, the first one, why has this happened to me? Because, as I said, I was a master at success. I had this wonderful library. I'd done all the courses. I'd been to seminars all over the world. I could quote any of the great teachers of what success is, how to achieve it. I'd studied the mind, the subconscious, changing your beliefs, having, pictures for what you want, and doing all of these success techniques. But yet it wasn't on my goals list to lose everything. So how could this happen to me? I kept asking myself. And the other question I kept asking was, what do I do now? Because I had absolutely no idea on how to get out of it. I didn't know anybody where I was. Everything I had, apart from my clothes, a few clothes, was gone. And I just felt in this hopeless, desperate situation. I just didn't know what to do. But that was the real turning point, because what I actually did then was something that was the key. And this is something I really want to share and help everyone listening who's struggling with any problems in their life or things that aren't going as well as they'd like it to. This is the key. And I had to learn it the hard way, but now I know there's an easier way. But it was doing something that it really, in any other circumstance, if I'd been in any other situation, I would never have done it if I hadn't been absolutely at rock bottom. And that was, I literally gave up. And I said, you know, forget it. I'm not going to try and plan anything. I'm not going to try and figure out what to do. I'm not going to try and put any effort into trying to get myself out of this mess. I just give up because I'm exhausted. I'm frustrated. I don't have anything left to give. Well, the funny thing was, from that moment, everything changed. And pretty soon, a business showed up. Then an amazing relationship showed up, something far different to what I'd ever had. Then another business showed up. And then another business showed up. And before I knew it, it wasn't very long before I was sailing around Europe in my own brand new yacht with my partner. And we actually launched it in Denmark, funnily enough. We started off there. But we went everywhere. We went around 15 countries around Europe over 8 years, from Norway, Denmark, Sweden, all the way down to France, Italy, across to the Greek islands, to Turkey. We were doing all these amazing things. But best of all was how I was feeling. Because if you can imagine being on a yacht, waking up in the morning in a beautiful bay, and you're all on your own with your partner, and your yacht's on its own, I should say, and you know, you just fall off the back into the water and you have a swim and you get up and you've got 3 businesses working for you and you're not stressed, you're not worried, things are all just falling into place. And I remember thinking, what on earth is going on here? Because it was like dominoes just kept falling into place, and they keep it carries on this way, by the way. But dominoes were falling into place, and I thought, why is it that before I was trying so hard and planning and strategizing and taking every opportunity I could, learning as much as I could, having all my goals worked out, working towards them with my plans and strategies and everything like that. Why is it when I did that, everything fell apart, everything collapsed, and I had a ton of stress in the meantime along the way. And now I'm not setting any goals. I'm not planning anything. And yet everything is working out. Everything is like falling into place. And there's no stress and problems. I thought I need to figure out what I'm doing differently, because I don't want to stop doing this. I want to make sure this keeps happening. Whatever I'm doing, I want to make sure it keeps happening. And so that's really what sent me on this mission to figure out, I am going to figure out what's happening. And the directions it took me were into an area that very, very few people, certainly none of the people that I'd studied with all of these success gurus and all these people, they never really talked about this at all. But I realized it was the missing link, and it was to do with how we're wired biologically. And that's what I do now. Is I started to become fascinated with this whole thing because it was working for me, and then sharing these ideas and these techniques, if you like, with other people, and seeing them get great results. So that's what I do now, is share this information with people to really help them let themselves off the hook, get unstuck, and really create a much more natural, enjoyable life while still getting everything that you want. That's what it's all about.
Love
What an
that.
amazing and powerful story. Really, really good. Okay, so I'm going to ask you a question. Now, I know you already talked about what you do, but would you mind diving a little bit deeper into exactly how you help clients activate their brain's success mechanism?
Well, the first thing is to understand, you know, I think one of the big problems we have in society today when we're trying to improve our life is there's plenty of people telling you what to do, but they're not telling you why you should do it. They're not giving you an understanding of why something works. So we hear people say, well, you need to write down your goals, or you need to, you know, visualize, or you need to recite these words to change your beliefs. Frankly, I've tried all of those things. And if we're really honest, and this is I know for a fact, talking to many other people, none of those things really work. So the first thing I do is explain to people how you are designed to work biologically, because the fact is we have a design that is predictable for success in our life. And remember what success is: being happy and not having stress and problems. We have this design that's as biologically predictable as you driving a motor car 50 miles down the road and it getting you to your destination. Because you know what a motor car is. It's a machine that's designed methodically and predictably to do its job, to get you to where you want to go. And you don't need to worry about it, get stressed about it, doubt whether it's going to work. It will do it as long as you drive it the right way. in other words, as long as you understand the way things operate. So the most important thing that I do first off, and maybe we could cover this briefly, is how are we designed biologically? Why is it that we are the only species in the natural world that is not biologically successful? And really, when people get that understanding, that's 90% of the battle, if you like. The rest of it's easy. The rest of it's just applying it, because it's like with a motor car. When you know how it works and how it drives, all you need to do is practice it a bit. Probably totally in a totally different way to the way you would drive a motor car if you didn't know how to drive it. But that's all it comes down to. But the understanding is the important thing.
Go ahead, Dee.
Yeah, I was just going to say, yeah, I think it's so fascinating.
I love that. If you can go a
Yeah.
little bit deeper, I think that would be brilliant.
Yeah, please do.
The first thing to realize is that it doesn't matter about anything else, but nature rules. We live in a biological, natural world. And you can meditate. I'll give you a good example. You can be standing on top of a 10-story building and you can pray, you can meditate, you can convince yourself, you can rewire your subconscious mind, you can practice affirmations, you can change your beliefs. Whatever you do, you can convince yourself that you're going to walk off the building and fly up into the air. But you're not. You walk off the building, nature will take over and you're going to fall down. The law of gravity. So nature rules. Nature determines. I mean, try and stop breathing. Try and stop your heart beating. Try and stop any of your bodily organs from working. You can't do it. Nature rules. So we are absolutely controlled by nature, by biology. And not only does nature rules, but nature has rules. And I mentioned the law of gravity. That's a rule of nature that you can't overcome. Well, there's another rule of nature that you can't overcome, and that is about biological life. What biological life is and what it's designed for, how it's wired, how it functions. And if you were to ask any biological scientist, how does nature work? What is the purpose of life? How is life wired? What is it designed to do? And how is it designed to operate? They will all tell you exactly the same thing, and that is primarily nature. All living things have only one function, one purpose, and one overriding principle, and that is to survive. Everything is biologically wired and designed to survive. And the way nature, every living organism does that, is that it's constantly striving to be the best that it can be, because when it's the best that it can be, that's what gives it the greatest chance for survival. And in fact, science has a word for this called homeostasis. And homeostasis means the optimal functioning of the organism. In other words, everything functioning at its best so that it has the greatest chance for surviving, which is what it's designed to do. So the thing is, everything has this wiring and designed to be the best that it can be. And if you look throughout nature, every organism, if you really look closely, and there's been lots of studies on this and research to show that nature does live in this state of homeostasis 98% of the time. In other words, 98% of all living things are functioning optimally. If you look at a plant or a tree or a bird or an insect or an animal, they are just functioning at their best. So this is the way nature is designed. However, if you were to ask humans, and again, there's been research on this as well, you would say to people, are you functioning at your best? Do you think that you are the best that you can be? Most people would say no. In fact, whereas nature has a 98% success rate, humans, we have a 98% failure rate. So why is that? Because again, if you say to people, are you doing your best? As I said, they would say no. So why is that? Why aren't we being the best that we can be? Why aren't we biologically the way we're designed, which is to be in this state of homeostasis? Because remember, for humans too, being our best doesn't just mean physically. When we're in homeostasis, that means also mentally and emotionally our best. Being happy, doing all the things we're supposed to do to have the best life possible. That's the way we're biologically designed. So when I really looked at all of this, I thought, well, I need to find out why humans aren't biologically successful. We're not living the way we're designed to live. And it comes down to the mechanism of how nature achieves this homeostasis, if you like, how does nature work to make sure that everything is being the best that it can be so that it has the greatest chance for survival? Well, fortunately, nature has given every living thing, every organism, something that's specifically designed to ensure that it achieves and maintains this state, and that's a brain. So the brain is a lot more, because if you ask someone, what's the brain? And they go, oh, well, yes, it's something, keeps you alive. It does a lot more than that. It's not just designed to keep you alive. It's designed to make sure you're at your best so that you have the greatest chance for survival. So for every living thing, this brain that they have, it's like a machine. It's constantly working to bring this organism back to a state of perfection. It's not working for us, though, is it? Because we're not in this homeostasis. So what's wrong? Why isn't it working for us? Is there a defect in our brain? Well, there's not a defect in our brain, because here's the other thing that we don't realize is nature has spent billions of years figuring out the best way to do everything, the most efficient way to do everything. It's ironed out all of the problems and difficult ways and things that don't work, if you like. So we live in a very efficient natural world where everything functions perfectly. So again, why isn't our brain functioning for us in the right way so that we don't have problems and we live in this state of being the best that we can be? Well, there's only one reason, and it comes back to that idea of a machine, because the brain is just a machine. It's a biological machine. There's nothing fancy about it. Well, there's a lot that's fancy, but you know what I mean? It's just got that one very specific role to play, that job to do. Well, if you think again about the motor car, what's the only reason why a motor car wouldn't do its job of getting you to where you want to go in the best and easiest way possible? It's if you're not driving it the right way. If you get into a motor car and you don't know how to drive it, and you don't know how to switch the engine on, or you don't know how to take the handbrake off or put it into gear, or you don't know what to do, you're going to end up with problems. You're not going to get very far. It's all going to be a struggle. You're going to be confused. And maybe if you do too much of the wrong thing, you're going to damage the engine and damage the car in some way. In other words, the only reason you have any problems in that whole situation is because you weren't driving it the right way. If you were to drive it the right way, you wouldn't have any problems. And it turns out, on a biological level, problems in our life are simply a sign or a result of the fact we're driving this brain machine the wrong way. And that's what I figured out, because my old life compared to my new life, stress, struggle, problems, collapse, to everything flowing, where I really did feel and do feel, this is me. I am being the best that I can be. This is what I'm here for. I don't have the stress and problems. I'm absolutely loving my life. The only difference was in how I was using my brain. And what I didn't realize also is that when you focus on using the brain the right way, you don't need to worry about all the other stuff. Your brain is going to make sure everything naturally falls into place so that you are the best that you can be. Obviously, you need to do things. It's not sitting in a corner and visualizing and meditating and thinking the law of attraction is going to bring all this to me. That's not how it works either. But you are going to do the right things, and you're going to see the right things, and you're going to be in the right place at the right time, so that everything works out well for you. And when I thought about this, is all I need to do is figure out how the brain works. And what I've created is a 4-part brain model, which explains, the remarkable thing about this is how simple it is. We overcomplicate things, which is another way we use our brain the wrong way. And we're trying to figure out all this stuff and how to do it. This is a natural way. This is the way we're naturally designed to live. And we would live this way if we hadn't spent a lifetime creating all of these ideas and habits that have taught us not to live this way. If we were surrounded by people who didn't know how to drive a motor car and said, the way to drive a motor car is to get out from behind and push it along. And of course, it's going to be difficult. And of course, you have to put a lot of energy in. And of course, it's tiring. And of course, you're not going to get very far and you're going to struggle and stress. But that's because you're not strong enough. So you need to build up your muscles so you push even harder. If we were surrounded by people like that, well, of course, that's what we would think was how you drove a motor car. And it only would take someone to come along and say, look, it's not about stress and struggle. That's not the way life is designed. Life is designed for everything to flow in the best way possible. And this is how you do it. Then that would make sense.
So that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And you mentioned 4 parts. So I assume like when you work with people to help them with this, you focus on those 4 parts. I think is what you called it, 4 parts.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if we've got time to like touch on them real quick. Can you give us a quick?
Well, I can give you the real simple explanation because you
Okay.
don't need, it is in a bit more detail, but essentially there are 2 brain states that you live in. Remember we mentioned that homeostasis state where you are being the best that you can be. Now, what does that look like? It means when you're being creative, when you're being imaginative, when you're being resourceful, when you're inspired, when you come up with new ideas, when you see new opportunities, when you have that gut, that quiet voice which says, do that, and you do it. It's when you're motivated. It's when you see the solution to a problem, rather than struggling for weeks trying to figure something out and suddenly out of the blue you get an idea. There's no struggle involved. So you're in this, it's called being in flow, being in the zone. I call it the creative brain. But when you activate and utilize this part of your brain, that is what puts you in homeostasis. And we've all had that feeling of life going well, and things seem to all be working well, and we're not having, and things are just going really well. That's actually the way we're biologically designed to be all of the time. That's our natural state, but we've just forgotten how to access it. Well, the reason we've forgotten how to access it is because we've got stuck using another part of our brain, which is thinking it's looking after us, but it's not designed to do that. It's what I call the survival brain. And what happens is when you're in the survival brain, you don't have access to any of those resources. And the way to know which part of your brain you're using is how you feel, because your brain has this marvelous signaling system to tell you which part of the brain to operate. So when you feel good, and we know this, when you're feeling happy, loving, excited, grateful, you are much more creative, you're much more productive. That's you using your creative brain, being in your natural state. But when you're stressed, worried, frustrated, angry, confused, annoyed, not feeling good about your life, that's a sign that you're stuck in the other part of your brain. And in that part of your brain, you can't set goals, or you can't set the right goals. You can't know the right things to do. All you stay is stuck and confused. And that's why, unfortunately, most people are spending most of their time feeling stressed, frustrated, unfulfilled, anxious, worried. And they don't realize that that's keeping them stuck using a part of their brain, which means they'll never be able to break out. They'll never find what they're actually looking for. So all they need to do, and this is what I teach and show people, is find out what's triggering which part of your brain, because there's a whole lot of external triggers that you're not aware of, many of them subconscious, that are triggering, deciding which part of your brain you're going to use. And all you need to do is uncover and eliminate the triggers that are keeping you in the stuck part of your brain. And then it's really simple after that. Once you get rid of those, you just allow your life to unfold. And that's what it does. It's not supposed to be a struggle or difficult. Your job is to just make sure you maintain the right brain state so that your brain can do its job and bring you everything you need for you to be your best.
Love that.
Thank you. Yeah, this is so valuable. I hope all you people out there are taking notes because, yeah, I just love this. This is great.
Yeah, this is fantastic, Liam. Thanks for sharing. Oh my gosh.
Interesting stuff, huh?
Was that?
It's quite interesting, all of this, isn't it? It certainly was for me when I discovered it.
It is.
Yeah,
It's
it is.
fascinating. Absolutely
Yeah,
fascinating.
really.
So you work with people to help them, find the triggers. Is it like just to live in that creative state? Is that a better way to state
Yeah,
it?
absolutely. Because, people everybody's fixated on trying to figure out what they want. What's going to make me happy? What should my goals be? What do I do to achieve them? But the reality is none of us knows what we really want. We think we do, and so we're chasing after things we think we want. But when you're chasing after something that you think you want, where does it come from? It comes from feelings of, I don't have something, I'm frustrated, I'm worried about the future, so therefore I need to create some security for myself by trying to earn money or fix this relationship or create a relationship or whatever it is. So what I teach people to do is to realize that goal setting is not a natural process biologically. Your brain, this creative part of your brain, knows far more than you do about what you need for you to be your best. I mean, if my brain had told me years ago, you're going to be sailing around the world in your own yacht with this amazing person, running all these businesses, teaching people, talking to people all over the world, and really making a difference and helping people in their life. I would have thought that was nuts. Not only because I didn't think it was possible, which I didn't, but the second reason is I didn't even know that that's what I wanted. So one of the things I help people with, and when we're entrepreneurs, we think we have to know, we have to plan, we have to try and figure stuff out. We have to achieve these goals to feel that we're a success. But what I show people is that's not the point of it at all. The point is to allow your brain to show you what you need. And so that and when you need it, and then you can just get into the state of just enjoying every moment, enjoying your life, which is actually what you're trying to do anyway. So it's getting out of that old habit of you're triggering this part of your brain which keeps saying, well, I need to know what's going to happen. I need to know what I want. You don't need to know any of that sort of thing. A lot of people follow the Bible. The Bible, it says, do not worry about tomorrow. Tomorrow will take care of itself. Do not worry about what you shall eat, drink, and wear. It's all going to be provided for you, just like it is for the rest of nature. It doesn't say sit down, figure out what you want, write down your goals, and work hard. And if you're good enough, you might earn those things. It says it's going to be provided for you, everything that you need. And this is the way biology works. It's the way we're designed. So one of those, as I say, one of the big habits to get out of is thinking you need to set goals and you need to have plans. Now, occasionally, you might have a goal, you might have a plan, but it's not the way we're designed biologically to attract. Well, it's not really attract because that has a different connotation. We're not really designed to design our life through goals. We're designed to design our life to enjoy this moment right now and let every right moment unfold.
Love this. Absolutely love it. Love it, love it, love it.
Yeah, I really love the way you just turn it all around, and yeah, I love that.
Yeah. Really quickly, because I know we're running short on time. Are you on a time crunch, Liam? Are you okay?
What is time? It's an illusion.
Exactly. I love it. I love
True.
it.
Don't talk for hours.
Because I'd love to hear a success story.
Definitely.
Sorry, what was
A success story when you've helped people realize these things for themselves.
Well, there's lots of different themes. One is I do a lot of work in marriage and relationships as well. In fact, I have quite a few coaching programs, and this is really one of the areas I started with, was helping people really in crisis situations, saving their marriages from divorce. And if people go to my website, I've got a lot of resources on that and coaching programs. So it's an area I know a lot about, and what I offer is really effective. And I have lots of people who've told me over the years that, they've healed their marriage, often from a pretty hopeless situation. But one of the things that always confused me is why some people would do what I said. This is what you need to do in my programs, and I know it works. Some people would do it and other people wouldn't. Some people would get a result and other people wouldn't. So what I realized, I needed to go deeper and figure out why people don't act on the right information. And it's again because their brain won't let them do that. So I've helped people. One example, for instance, I can talk about in the relationship area. One man, his wife had been telling him for 3 years that she wanted a divorce. And he always refused and said, no, I'm going to fight for our marriage and I'm not going to give up. And he just refused. He said, I'm going to do whatever it takes. And he did all sorts of courses. Well, when he came to me, what I got him to do was stop triggering the fear, the anxiety, the worry, the stress about the thought of getting a divorce, because that's what was driving him. There was no way he wanted that, because that just made him feel so awful. So when he stopped the triggers, he completely changed his approach towards his wife. And in fact, they got back together. And this is after her saying, for 3 years that she wanted a divorce. So he had a completely different approach, not because of the information that I gave him, but because of the way his brain was able to bring him the right actions. He could see the right things to do, and he could see, and not only he could see the right things to do, he actually did them. He wasn't afraid to do them, and they all worked. Same with business. I meet a lot of business owners and entrepreneurs who are really struggling in some area of their business. And we all know, as I do, when you've got a part of your business that isn't going well, or a part of your life that isn't going well, it drags everything down. And this particular business owner, he had a very successful business, and very soon he had 4 branches of his, it was a retail business. But whereas the one branch went really well, and he was in there, he was loving what he was doing, as soon as he tried to spread it out into 4, it didn't work. Another one was okay, and 2 were doing really badly. But he was spending all his time trying to fix the 2 that were doing really badly. And isn't this what we do? We put all our attention on our problems. We say, I need to fix that problem, then my life will be great. But when he started to, or when he stopped triggering the fear, stress, worry, anxiety part of his brain, when he started to allow his brain to see his situation for what it was, and how it, what the real solution was, if you like, then he could take the right action. Instead of trying to struggle and force things to happen, all of the right things started to happen, and he restructured his business, made it a lot smaller, but a lot more profitable, and he became a lot happier. So whether it's restructuring a business, or, you know, even changing a career, or changing a relationship, or restructuring a relationship, it's amazing what your brain will do if you know how to use it. And it's a bit like if you cut your, you know, this is biology. I'm not talking about anything woo-woo here about the subconscious mind, or hope, faith, or belief. It's nothing to do with that. This is some biological science, because if you think about it, if you cut your finger, you don't worry about whether it's going to heal or not. You don't sit there and visualize and, you know, speak to it and hope that it's going to heal. You know that's a natural process. Everything about you biologically will go into action to heal that finger. And it's the same with your brain. If you allow it, if you use it the right way, it will heal your life. It will all come into action, and it'll make sure all of the right things will happen at the right time. Everything will fall into place. But if you don't do that, if you continue to stay stuck and holding on with fear and struggle and trying to figure it out and trying to force things to happen, that's not natural. It can't do it. It can't do that, do the job it's designed to do. So it's amazing what you can achieve when you aren't trying and when you aren't struggling. When you're trying, when you're you're certainly interacting and putting an effort, but when you're not struggling, it's amazing what happens. But it's getting to that understanding so that you can do it.
Okay,
It's getting to that
yeah,
understanding. You're right. Yeah, go ahead, Katie.
yeah, I was just gonna say, it's just like you always say, Liam, stop struggling and let yourself off the hook. It's it's really
Well, it's
perfect.
like, you know, we actually, people say, oh, I believe and I have faith and I trust. No, you don't. People say that. What they're talking about is hope. But we live on trust. We trust that our heart's going to keep beating. We trust that we're going to keep breathing. We trust that the sun's going to come up in the morning. We trust that when we're driving down the road, all of the cars coming the other way are going to stay on their side and not hit us. We live on trust. But what is that? It's just knowing that that's the way things work and having an experience of it. So when we see it, we don't even question it again. We just say, well, that's just the way it works. And that's the same when you start to use your brain differently. What you start to experience is all of these things that sometimes you call them luck or coincidence or synchronicity, but you know, you get better ideas, you take better actions, you see better results, and then you don't need to hope and have faith that things are going to work out. You just go, I can see it now. I've experienced how it works. And then the more you do that, the more you get that showing up, the more you do the right thing, and the more of the right things show up in your life. So it's so liberating a way to live, because instead of struggling and trying to force things, you can actually allow things to unfold a natural way, knowing they're designed to unfold in the best way possible. That's the way biology is designed.
I love this.
Yeah.
Edie, is there anything else as we wrap this up? Anything else we want to ask?
Yeah. If there's anything you want to add, Liam, we always ask that question. You're welcome.
Anything else we haven't talked about that you want to make sure the listeners hear as we wrap this up, Liam?
Can I give you a 30-second explanation as to why goal setting doesn't work?
Oh, yeah,
Please.
let's do it. Yeah.
Everybody's out there trying to set goals, but the reality is nobody is achieving them. The success rate is between 2 and 3%. So we're all thinking, oh, I'm setting my goals and everyone, but I'm not really achieving them. No, you're not. And the reason you're not is because it's not a natural way you're designed to live. Because I mentioned earlier how nature has figured out the easiest way to make sure that everything becomes the best that it can be over millions of years. And we know that resistance is one of the laws of nature, that if there's any resistance, all it does is slow things down. If you drive into the wind, it's going to be harder and slower than if you drive or ride a bike, for instance, with the wind. So nature has worked out to operate with the least amount of resistance. And the biological reason is the law, what I call the law of efficiency of energy. Everything is designed to receive the most output and result for the minimum expenditure of energy. And if you think even on a physical level, when we were designed biologically millions of years ago, we might not have been able to eat for a week. So we had to have a system designed that we could conserve energy. So that after a week, even if we hadn't eaten, we still had enough strength to go and catch some more food. So we are designed to expend the maximum amount of, get the maximum result with the minimum amount of energy. So if your brain was to come along to you and say, or if you asked your brain, what should my goals be? What do I need to be happy in my life? What should I be doing? Now, if your brain was to tell you, so for instance, if when I was on my mother's couch, my brain had told me that's what you're going to be doing, what's always or very often would be the reaction if your brain suddenly told you something which is probably way out of your experience, your comfort zone, anything you've ever thought of. If your brain was to tell you what your ultimate goal was, you would probably start questioning it, start doubting it, start trying to analyze it and say, is that really what I want? Oh, I'm not sure if it is. How do I know it's what I really want? How do I know I'm going to be able to get there? How do I know anything? What are you doing? Well, what you're not doing is taking action. You're not being efficient. You're not being biological. You're not getting any closer to that homeostasis, optimum functioning place of where you're supposed to be. So that's why your brain doesn't show you what you're supposed to have. Now, your brain also doesn't say to you, right, you want to know, you want a plan, okay? Here are the 20 steps on how to get to your ultimate goal. Same thing, you get the 20 steps and you go, step number 3, oh, I don't know about that. And maybe if step number 4, what if something else happens? So you start all this analysis, doubt, questioning, and you're not doing anything. You're again using up energy. You're wasting energy on all of this thinking, talking, doubting stuff. So the most biologically efficient way to make sure that your brain gets you to do what you're supposed to do to get you to where you're supposed to be so that you achieve your perfect state, it only shows you one step at a time, nothing more. And you're designed simply to be in the moment. We talk about mindfulness, and this is where all these practices come from. This is the biological basis as to why this is true, is you're designed to just take the next step, not question, not doubt, not think too hard about it, not think at all about it, not overthink it, just do it. And when you do that, you'll be shown the next step. And when you live your life biologically efficiently, which is also being in the flow, being in the zone, where you just continually focus on the next step and never think about anything further than that, that's when your life works out perfectly. That's the way you're designed to live. Nothing to do with setting a goal. It's all to do with knowing that your brain is going to bring you all of the right things at the right time. And pretty soon, and this has happened for so many people, like the people I was talking about earlier that I've worked with, they end up in a completely unexpected place. And then they contact me and say, you're not going to believe what I'm doing now. And they say, I could never have imagined this would have happened to me. Why didn't I just allow my life to unfold? Why was I struggling? Why was I focused on this idea that I had to control things? I had to know what to do. I had to try and figure all this stuff out. You don't know this stuff. This other part of your brain knows, but your thinking part of your brain doesn't know. So stop trying to use it. It's just a futile exercise. Hope that makes sense.
Brilliant.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense.
Although I think Edie, you and I are a little like we understand a lot of these things and study it more so than most people. Because prior, a few years back, no, that would not have. I would have been like, what?
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. So
exactly.
it is interesting the path that we evolve on as humans to finally come back to our biological homeostasis at some point, hopefully sooner than later, or however it works out. Wow. I could keep talking and asking questions.
Yeah, me too.
I love this. Liam, this is fantastic. Oh my God.
It's so valuable. Thank you. Thank you for sharing it with our audience. So yeah.
Yes. Yeah, we're gonna have to figure out a way to bring you back on and ask you some like the next level of questions, I think. This was awesome.
Yeah, we could do that. We never
But
done it before, but we could.
for today, let's wrap
definitely.
this up. How will our listeners get to know you better? Where can they go?
Well, the place to go is my website, liamnaden.com, Naden. And I have my own podcast actually called the Let Yourself Off the Hook podcast, where I go into a lot of detail about this. I've got a lot of free resources, coaching ideas, and also they can see my model of the 4 parts of your brain. We touched on a little bit, but once you understand these are 4 separate biological places in your skull. These aren't ideas. These are physical things. They're physical functions. And when you use them in the right sequence, the right way they're supposed to, that's when everything explodes in your life. And I mean, in a good way, and you go on the direction you're supposed to be going. You go on the direction when you finally say, I'm finally going in the right direction. It feels like I'm finally on track. So all of that's on my website, and liamnaden.com. And if people want to contact me, I'd be delighted to answer any questions or share any more insights, help them any way I can.
I love it. Thank you
Thank you.
so much. Awesome. All right, Geety, wrap us up.
We're gonna wrap it up. Okay, I'm just gonna mention it again. Go to liamnaden.com. Naden.
In
And
N-A
N,
in
yeah.
yeah.
Naden.
In for nuisance.
Yeah.
what did you say? N for nuisance?
Yeah, that's right. Or other might come up, but it's an N, not an M, an N. Yeah.
N
Yeah,
like
yeah,
Nancy. 2
yeah,
N's.
it's an N.
Wait,
Yeah.
look in the comments. Somewhere around this video, you'll see a link. We'll put the
It's
links in there.
it's gonna be in the comments. No worries. Okay, great. Let's wrap this up. Thank you for being on the show today, Liam. It's been such a pleasure. For me, it's been so fascinating listening to it. So thank you. I'm Gidadka.
And I'm awesome Angie Engstrom, honoring the awesomeness in all of you. And thanks for listening to Momentum Maker Podcast. So keep your momentum, keep moving forward. And if you happen to be a course creator, spending too much time selling one-on-one, and you're ready to condense time and sell one-to-many, open up a tab on your browser and go to elitevirtualstages.com/report and learn how you can turn your expertise into a 6 or even 7-figure day. Oh yeah, that's what I said. 6 or 7 figures in a day using live transformational virtual masterclasses. Thanks for listening, everybody. Keep your momentum. Thanks, Liam, for joining us.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yes, absolutely.